Hi, it's Sam, aka Lymphoma Lass, here with you again. And today we're going to be making a brooch. It's kind of an abstract, stylized daffodil. And I've done this through sewing with a little brooch pin on the back. So I'm going to show you how to make one of these today for a little corsage for on a jacket. So to start with, I'm using recycled ribbons. So these are off cakes. I've got some scissors, some thread and a needle, a brooch bag, a button, and I'm going to use a bead as well. So to start with, I need to cut the ribbons, and I need 6 of them because the daffodil has 6 petals, and I'm using this kind of length from my wrist to my thumb. I'm just measuring them against each other. They don't have to be exact because flowers are organic, so their shapes are less even and geometric. They're more natural. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then for the inner, I'm using this deeper colour, and I'm going to use ribbon of about twice that length, maybe a little bit more, twice the length of the petals. I'm going to start by sewing a petal. So I want a fair amount, so it's this kind of amount of thread, because I'm going to sew with it doubled. And this is because it makes it much easier sewing. You don't have danger of losing your needle off the end of the thread and then having to re-thread every 2 minutes. So I'm going to tie a knot, which I just did by folding the thread around my finger, and then that end I tuck underneath and through, and then just pull to tighten it. So round your finger, over and through the middle underneath, and then you pull it tight. So for the petals, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the 2 ends together to make a loop at that top that is pointy. I'm going to push my needle through, down and up, and then I'm going to push it down through the end and pull it tight the side that's loose. So I've now got it nice and secured. I just have to hold the loop in shape while I sew. And I just do a running stitch like that, pull it through, and then I'm going to go back the other way. And then I'm going to tie it off by going through this loop holding the loop open with my fingers, except for it's tangled a bit. And then pull my needle through that loop to make a knot. And I'm going to do that twice, so that the petal's secured. It's knotted itself, but that's okay. And then I'm going to cut it off. So, it's not perfect, but I've got a petal. And now I'm going to do that with the other 6 petals before we continue, so I'll pause while I do that. So I've just sewn my 6th little petal, but I've not tied it off. What I'm going to do, and I've not gone back over stitches, what I'm going to do is just add in my other petals by sewing them in a line to the first one, to this last one, I should say. So I've got them sewn in a line, stitched in a line, and then it doesn't take me much more to stitch them round in a ring by adding a stitch to the first one in the line. Then I'm going to gather them up, because that's very big, and we want something a bit more like that. And I'm going to push the ends down to the back and just gently pull the thread to get my flower shape. organising it so all the petals have a slight bend to them, and it looks like a attractive flower, starting to look like an attractive flower. And at the back I've got all the ends up like that. So this is just fiddling about with how big or small or loose or tight you want your daffodil or other flower to be. So I think I want it about there. Just going to do one more stitch. And another stitch on the back, catch the loop of that stitch and pull my needle through it to make a knot. So there I am, I've got the base of the petals. I'm just going to cut that off. There we go, that's the start. Then to make the frill in the middle, I'm going to fold over that end, first put a knot in my thread, fold over that end, fold the ribbon in half, and I'm just going to do a running stitch near to the fold. Like this. And these are the edges. So I've got something like that, and I'm going to just do a stitch into the first part of it. So I'm going to overlap and just do a stitch through to join the two sides like that. So I've got a ring. So now I need to work out how big I want that ring to be by just tightening it. Like that. And then I need to sew down through the petals that I first made to attach the centre of the daffodil all round. So I just need to catch it in a few places. Back down through to the back of the petals. Back up. Through the petals. And through this bit, just the edge of it, near the fold, at the fold, so you don't have big stitches showing when the thing's finished. Going to go through that one, through to the petals at the back, and then along a bit, up, and through a piece of frilly glossy ribbon, down through the petals, and this bit's not attached yet, so I'm going to do that bit next. Catch those two folds with my needle, and to the back, where I'm going to catch up a bit of ribbon, a couple of bits of ribbon, and put my needle through the loop to make a knot, and do that a couple of times before I cut that thread off. So don't worry about the back, I'm going to solve the back in a minute, but that's how the front is starting to look. Just nice. going to add the button in there. So, because it's on in a loop, the needle's not going to pull off the thread part way through, so I'm going to add my knot. I've got my button I'm going to put on, and I'm also going to add a bead on top of the button, just a plastic bead. So, to do this, I am going to attach securely my thread to the back, and I'm going to make it secure because I'm going to, where this knot is, I've looped my needle through and pulled it down, and then it's not going to move. I'm going to push my needle through the petals to the front. I'm going to go through the whole of the button. You could use any button, I just happen to have, they're very cheap, but these nice gold buttons from a pack I bought. If you were making something as something to remember an occasion or a person, you could use a very special button for maybe their clothes or something like that. And you could use a lovely glass bead or semi-precious stone bead for the bead. So I'm just sewing it on like I would normally sew on a button, where you do the crisscrosses. So you do it, you can do it any way you like, but I prefer the look of doing it up through that hole and then cross to this diagonally opposite hole, rather than doing them side by side like that. I think for a flower brooch that works much better. And then I'm going to come up again, and I'm going to add my bead. Go down, and just so it doesn't get pulled off accidentally, I'm going to go through the bead once more, and back down. And then this little end has come loose, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do just a tiny stitch there, so that frayed end of ribbon doesn't show. So I'm going to go through the back, and then I'm just going to again I'm just going to sew that one in to there to tidy that place up. So I'm going to go through the back of here, and I'm just going to go up here and I'm just going to catch those two bits and put a stitch back down. So I think that's looking quite nice on the front. It's looking nice and tidy. Maybe just another one there, just to tidy that bit up. Catch that in there and drag it behind my button. So there, that's that bit. Now the next bit, I'm just going to fasten this off, is to tidy up the back of the brooch, once I've knotted that off. So how I'm going to do that is I'm going to fold this ribbon fabric, which is fraying, down and cover it with a piece of darker ribbon. So cutting off a piece that will cover it. So I've got that secure. What I'm going to do is I'm going to fold over my ribbon and I'm pushing my needle up there down through there, and then I'm going to put it through the loop, that loop. And that will hold my thread secure on my shiny ribbon. And I'm tucking everything in. I'm going to sew it very carefully to the underside of each petal, just checking it's not visible from the front. So only going through the ribbon that is the back of the petal. So I'm going to pause till I get to the end of that, so you can see putting on the brooch back. Right, I've gone almost the whole way round that piece of ribbon, and you can see that it's now looking quite good actually. So I'm just going to finish with the last couple of stitches, and then I could sew this onto virtually anything: a dress, a shoe clip, a hair grip, a hair comb, virtually anything. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a little brooch on it. So I'm going to finish off by doing my last stitch around the corner, and then keeping the loop so I can put the needle through the loop to fasten it. Now, to attach the brooch back, I'm going to sew through the petals at the back, but under them, and to the middle. And then it's very easy, you just put your needle through the brooch back and do another little stitch, back up through the brooch back, and you do that a couple of times. Just to make sure it's secure on each hole in your brooch back. So if you'd like to see more of my work, I have a free monthly newsletter that I email out towards the end of each month, and I think I've been doing that for now 16 months, and for the last few months what I've been doing is one new subscriber wins a little giveaway. So this might be one of my little giveaways. So the link is in the comments or in the written detail for this, so please do sign up to hear more about me and my life each month, just on one newsletter a month, particularly if you'd like to win a little giveaway. And you can catch up with more that I'm doing by subscribing to my YouTube channel. So I've now going to just finish this off by doing a knot. I'm going to do that again because this is the one that's most likely to come loose. So I've got the loop, my thumb in the loop, put the thread through it and up, and then to tidy it off, what I do is I go under the brooch clip and to the edge of the piece of ribbon where I'm hiding all my ends. Pull that through, just pull it a little tighter than needs be, thread and it springs back and it's invisible. So I hope you've enjoyed this session. I hope you're enjoying the spring and the flowers. We're now with the bluebells, daffodils have gone over, but we've got a stylised daffodil here to remember the season. So thank you very much for listening, and goodbye.